There's so many.
Hello, good evening. Welcome to Women in STEM. Or
more specifically, Women in STEMemicist.
As always, that stands for SpoT, MiguEl, MilES, MoralES, and STacy.
I know these are incredibly common character names, but the movie specifically that we are talking about today is in fact Across the Spider-Verse. We have several topics that we wanted to cover today, including Pride Month. You're starting at the bottom. And animation. And that's all. Back to you.
Go, go, go! Today.
Uh-oh.
We don't have to keep time.
I know, it just
Every
felt
time,
right.
every time the video starts, we say hello and welcome to Women in STEM. So it's like every 3 sentences. Just a reminder, that's what this is. So today we're talking about the movie Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
Yes.
Is that what it is called?
Yes.
Good. That's what we're talking on.
We have several things that we wanted to touch on. These are completely original and things that no one else has mentioned about the movie, including the animation, the music, the villains, the characters, and the narrative of the story itself.
Villains being separate from characters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Additionally, Hobie.
It's also
being separate from characters. Yes.
So, what was the first thing that you said? Animation? Let's talk about that. It was beautiful.
What I said about it, or the animation?
No, the animation. That's what I'm... Let's talk about it, and then I started talking about the animation, as I am talking about, was beautiful.
It was beautiful. I think that the first one was phenomenal. The first, Into the Spider-Verse, was really, really well done, and the animation was, of course, groundbreaking. And then they said, what if we did that again, but, like, dialed it up to 50 this time? And they did.
Yes.
They made it, like...
Even more groundbreaking.
Yes.
Somehow.
Yes.
Yeah.
The colors, the shapes, Gwen Stacy's world, colored by her emotions, changing
Fantastic.
every frame. That's good. Yeah.
Yeah. It's really good. I like the, how the background will have, like, kind of abstract shapes, or it'll be, like, dripping.
Yeah.
And I also like in some scenes, she's, like, glowing. Like, the contrast of colors, it's all, like, it's very interesting.
Yeah. I saw someone else note that she is very, she's based in, like, cool colors, and her dad in the outside world is based in very warm colors, but when she enters her room, it's, you know, it fits her, and her dad is the one that doesn't seem to fit in her room. You know, she's in her own space that she's created. It's, you know, that's good.
Yes. Based.
See, what I like about this format is that the flow of natural conversation is completely eliminated.
You're talking about villains.
Okay. There's maybe 2 of them.
Yeah. And they're both really good.
Yeah.
They are on opposite ends of the baby girl spectrum, as we have discussed at length.
You have all heard of this.
They're very well known.
Yeah.
Peer-reviewed.
Actually. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
the baby girl spectrum. On the one end is an active war criminal, and on the other is pathetic, sad, wet mess of a man.
Yes.
And of course, that's MiguEl.
Yeah.
No, I kid. That was just a little joke.
Just a taste of the kind of humor you'll find on this podcast. With 2 actual doctors you can trust. I really hope that phrase catches on.
It will if we keep bringing it up. Don't forget you are watching Women in STEM.
Welcome.
Anyway.
Yeah, so SpoT is like kind of not to like belittle or demean him at all, this is said with pure love and affection.
Yes.
He is kind of like sad and lame. Like this really unfortunate thing has happened to him.
Mm-hmm.
He has to resort to a life of crime, but he can't even do that right. That's sad.
And even still, with all this anger inside of him, no one takes him seriously.
No,
not
he
even
just calls him the villain of the week. He's like, I'm the villain of your life. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyone see it?
Yeah. No, the cop doesn't take him seriously. This random kid, just as Spider-Man, doesn't take him seriously.
Mm-hmm.
And even in his you know, seemingly big moment where he's just so angry and he's, you know, affecting the very fabric of reality and time and space around him, he has the most embarrassing moment and literally like kicks himself into one of his holes. He defeats himself in that moment. And it's really like, you know, he's kind of used as a comic relief character in the first act of the movie, which is really fun to see the comic relief character come back
Actually
as an
be a way
actual
bigger threat than
threatening
you think
villain.
that he will be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. I really like SpoT.
Mm-hmm. And on the other end of the spectrum is, of course, MiguEl O'Hara, who's like poses himself as a good guy, which again is a really interesting dynamic that is supposed to be like a team leader and he's trying to save the universe, but he's also like gonna throw hands with any 13-year-old on site, like specifically MilES, who's like 15, 16, but still. That's crazy person behavior. He's lost it. He's very violent constantly. Yeah, he's deranged.
Yeah.
And this is again with only respect and admiration.
Yeah. Anyone watching by now should know how much love and respect we have for the deranged characters specifically. Yeah, he's a really interesting a figure because everyone seems to be very intimidated by him, which, like, from a good guy perspective and especially from a Spider-Man perspective, is unusual. You know, Spider-Man is meant to be this non-threatening, friendly neighborhood Spider-Man kind of a thing, and to have MiguEl as this like force of nature, just so stoic and unmoving, uncaring. It's
He's
really
the only Spider-Man who's not funny.
Yeah. It's an interesting dynamic.
It is. And that's that on
that.
Go!
So anyway, branching out from just villains and talking about all the rest of the characters, we like how this movie is very like character focused, specifically kind of unlike the first one was very focused on MilES, and this one is interesting that it starts out with Gwen, but then it's still like the whole point of the movie is still MilES, right? And his story and like how he's overcoming his own fears and challenges, but also how he's kind of accidentally been the catalyst of this huge like multiverse chaotic event.
Yeah. Something that was mentioned in a video done by Fisher Alexander. He's an incredibly popular YouTuber that we're close friends with.
Yeah. It's like name dropping Mr. Beast.
Anyway, he did a video about Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. A phenomenal film, phenomenal video.
Yes.
And he said that it was very interesting to watch a movie with so many different characters, each driven by their own individual storyline, and have a complete satisfying resolution at the end, and how rare that is to see that a movie can do that so satisfactorily.
Yes.
I had a moment.
Why not?
We're just gonna
Words
start making up
can
words.
be anything you want.
And that's from a doctor.
That's from
Yes.
a real doctor. You can trust.
But I think we see that in this movie as well. We see good, satisfying arcs from Gwen, from her dad, who's barely in the movie, from MilES, from Peter, from MiguEl. You know, we understand intimately all of these characters, even though they don't have, you know, hours and hours of screen time. You know, the way that they're introduced and their interactions with other characters, it just very effectively sets up where they are coming from and where they're going. And that's really cool to see.
Yeah, that's really good. True.
True.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes.
And so, as I was already saying, and this is a perfect flow of the sentence that has not been interrupted in any way, it's nice to see a movie that's like, it has like a multiverse element and there's a lot of like kind of sci-fi or supernatural things to it, but that's not like the point of the movie. Like they're not just making it to show off that they're really good at animation, even though they clearly are, right? But it's like an actual story that you can relate to because it's centered on something that matters.
Yeah.
It's
not just characters who happen to be in a story, in a narrative. It's
the narrative happens because of the characters and how they interact with each other and what their motivations are.
Yeah.
Which I know we've talked about before. I don't know if we've said it specifically on here. But that's something that's really like important to a story, is knowing like if this is character driven, then you can't just like have a plot in mind and then put the characters in where you think they might go. It's important that like everything that happens to further the plot happens because of a specific character's action or inaction in some way.
That's good.
Period. Was there anything else?
Yeah, there definitely was.
Cool.
Don't remember it.
All right.
No, I do. Don't move.
It's just a really emotional movie. Sometimes when you're thinking about any one of the characters, you just have to have a nice little cry.
That's actually what we've been doing in between each of these cuts.
We just can't contain it.
No, it's about a 15-minute break in between each.
Oh, and I don't have anything to say. My hobby. Let's start with my hobby.
Hobie.
He's on the
Animation.
list.
Good.
Yes, really good. He's made of newspapers and stuff,
Yeah,
and
he is.
always like parts of his body like move to the same style at a different frame as the other one, so that's kind of cool.
Yeah, that's really fun to see. I also really like that he kind of, as a punk, subverted my expectations of what a punk character would be. You know, he's not just like a dick for no reason.
Yeah.
He genuinely cares so much about, you know, his friends. Pavature, gwEn, he cares about MilES. He's heard about him, he knows about him, and the second that he meets him, he's like, okay, yes, no, I'm going to adopt him. I'm going to help him in any way I can, even if he's not listening. You know, MilES has this, you know, idealized version of this spider society built up into his head, even though it's not what he wants it to be. It's not what he thinks it should be. And Hobie recognizes that this, like, idealization of this, and even through that, he says, this is not what you think it is. And is patient with him, even though MilES doesn't believe him or trust him right away, and is a little bit, like, irritated at him. You know, he's just kind of jealous.
Just because they've never met, and he's very jealous. But what's interesting is that Hobie is like the only character with absolutely no pretense.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, like even though he's ridiculous and he's like, oh, I don't believe in consistency or whatever. Like, he's the only like consistent character, which is like from the beginning. He's like, MilES, like don't sign up until you know what you're actually like volunteering to do.
Yeah.
You don't have to go along with this. Like,
make your own watch.
Yeah. And the whole, like, even just, like, they immediately get, like, that nonverbal communication, right, where he's, like, if you're using your electric powers, which, how does Hobie even freaking know about that?
Yeah, I don't know.
He comes in out of nowhere, and he's like,
I know
use the palm,
intimately
not just
how
the fingers. Anyway.
Yeah.
And then later, MilES is trapped in the orange thing, and he's like, I'm with you, man. Like, he doesn't have to say anything, and MilES immediately is like, okay.
Yeah.
And then he kills everyone or whatever.
It's really fun to see.
Yeah.
I also really like the callback to Uncle Aaron from the first movie. You know, we have MilES defeating Kingpin by putting, you know, doing the shoulder touch and using his Venom Strike power, but also, you know, he does the same thing with MiguEl, but it's not like the crux of the movie this time. There's still a good chunk of the film left to go.
Yeah.
But he's able to tie in, you know, his connection with Uncle Aaron, his own thing, I'm gonna do my own thing, and what he learned from Hobie, you know, using the whole palm, you know, charging with the fingers and then putting the whole palm out.
Yeah.
And it's a really fun callback to the first movie while still evolving.
Still being fresh.
Yeah.
Instead of just being like essentially the first movie again.
Yeah.
Like some other sequels that we've seen that are in Star Wars.
I've never seen a Star Wars sequel.
Yeah, I feel like just going back to what you were saying about like subverting character like trope expectations, I feel like the idea of like a punk rocker is like so misinterpreted and misused in media. So it's it's refreshing to see that he like actually has like he's really in the culture, like
Yeah. And what the culture
he's into
actually...
it on purpose, like he is fighting fights that are important to him.
Yeah.
And it's not just for the aesthetic,
Yeah.
but he's really into it. And also, it's just refreshing that he's the voice of reason.
It's well planned and self-contained. That's another thing that we've talked about at length. Maybe not necessarily here,
Yeah.
but we've often said that some of the best stories are the ones that are planned out in advance. That sentence hasn't ended up where I wanted it to go.
How interesting and topical. Because sometimes a series, whether it's TV or a film, doesn't have a proper ending planned, and it makes it bad.
Mm-hmm. And so my stuttering was intentional to demonstrate this.
Yes. A much better sentence would have been formulated in the mind and then spoken aloud with confidence.
And that's from a real doctor that you can trust.
Who has 2 thumbs and is a real doctor that you can trust.
But I really liked that the first movie also was a very self-contained. You know, it was mostly about Miles and his origin story to becoming Spider-Man, and they could have ended it there, and it would have been, you know, really...
It would have been satisfying and fun.
Yeah, it was a really good ending that's, you know, maybe a little bit hinting at like a potential sequel, but nothing that you would be like, how could they end it there? Like, no! It's like, yeah, no, that it perfectly wrapped up everything that the film set up. Except for the things that it set up that we didn't know that they were setting up.
True. Yeah. Like, the first movie really speaks for itself.
Yeah, that's a good
and it
one
makes
for
a lot of sense in itself, but then it doesn't feel like the second one is coming out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Because you realize looking back that there are all these like small things that could have just been fine on their own, but now mean something in the greater plot of the series.
Yeah. They didn't see the success of the first movie and think, oh man, we can do another one and make buco bucks. They didn't do that. It's not a blatant cash grab. You know, they have a story that they have been planning to tell. They've been planning this sequel. They've been planning the third one for a while. They know what they're doing, and that's really admirable.
Yeah, instead of just going in blind and like changing the director and writers for every movie. Just throwing that out there, wouldn't that be crazy if somebody did that?
Yeah. Especially like a multi-billion-dollar corporation.
And something, maybe a story that's very like known and beloved. For example, like, you know, Spider-Man.
Sure.
He's from the comics, and then there were other movies made about him, so people are familiar with this character in general.
Yeah.
And it would be a shame if there was something else akin to that people really enjoyed and admired that then was ruined by lack of planning and consistency.
I don't have any examples of that though.
Yeah.
And so we're moving on.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Let's do that.
Coming at this from every angle, you know, because we're thorough
Yeah.
and thoughtful.
Yeah.
Do you think we could do like a Yes, that's perfect.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
And what were your final things that you were going to say?
I think that the acting is also incredible.
Yes.
They've clearly hired people who know how to voice act, which is another very important thing when you're doing an animated film.
To not just hire big names, but hire big names that are good.
Yeah, something along those lines.
Or, you know, just food for thought.
Yeah. I liked it.
Oh, me too.
Really,
like
really
stamp
good.
of approval. I liked it.
Yeah. I did remember that there was one more thing that I was going to mention that is related to something that we talked about several weeks ago, and that is foreshadowing. It does it very effectively. It doesn't stand out like to an absurd degree, but when you go back and rewatch it, you think, oh my gosh, of course. How did I not notice that the first time?
It's because you didn't know the first time that you were supposed to look out for it.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
The main example is that in the first movie, the spider that bites MilES glitches a couple of times. And that's, you know, not something that we really think about because it's just kind of oh, that's a fun visual. But we don't necessarily know that means that he's not from that universe at that point. And by the time that we realize that at the end of the movie, we don't really remember it and it doesn't really stand out. We think maybe it's just like the collider going off in the other room that's affecting, you know, the spider.
Mm-hmm.
But by the second movie, we learned that spider was not from MilES' universe. It came from another universe.
And now it's deceased frowny face.
Deceased frowny face, yes. Anyway, that's just one example of foreshadowing that they do really well. That is subtle enough that it just kind of fits into the story as a whole. But also when you go back and watch it again, it adds an entirely new layer to it. That's really interesting to watch for a second time. And so, send tweet. In conclusion...
Oh,
yeah, I meant like redo
again.
it. Yeah, we're not going to do another take of this. This is just going to be the last.
in conclusion, just stop watching.
Bye, John.
It's over now. Bye, John. Say thank you to John.
Thank you to John.
Good job.
Thanks, John, for the help with the title.
Yes.
We appreciate you.
Okay, goodbye now.
Goodbye.
Hello, Jonathan. Today is not a complaint, it's a question. Should, I don't know if I explained this before on our podcast that we do, the episodes of which are exclusive and not uploaded anywhere. So it's called Women in STEM, and then we make up a new thing for the acronym STEM to stand for every episode.
We never forget to do it before we start recording.
We always know what to do, except this is the only one exception where we're talking about Across the Spider-Verse. Mm-hmm. And we have two options for what we want the STEM to stand for. One of them is SpoT and MiguEl, but MiguEl has to be spelled backwards in order for it to work with the M and the E. So it's like SpoT forwards with capital S and capital T, and then MiguEl backwards. Yeah, so that's one of the options. Mm-hmm. And then the other option is Spider-Man, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Just couldn't think of anything else. So those are, cast your vote now. Or whenever, really. And that's what we'll do.
We love you. Thank you.
Okay. So STEM, right? STEM. What are you going to do for the M? You could just use MiguEl. So what you could do is you could have SpoT and then whatever the T is. You could have, what is the dinosaur? T-Rex. They had the T-Rex in Spider-Man. And then you could have MiguEl backwards, and then you could have MiguEl forwards. So you have the E, like you, yeah. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah. I don't know where you guys upload these, or how you even do these podcasts. I think you've told me about them before, and I guess you just said that you don't upload them. I would like to hear this one. That movie almost made me cry. Like, I was so close to crying because I really vibed with Gwen Stacy's character. I really vibed with her. That was great. It's a good movie. Anyway, yeah. I think that would be a good idea.
We're citing our sources. Hello again.
Hello. Welcome to Women in STEM.